Hi everyone, 10 months ago I did a video on this, my portable folding workbench. I've been promising upgrades to this workbench ever since, and over the next 3 videos, those upgrades have finally arrived. Over the next couple of weeks, I've got some pretty exciting upgrades to this workbench. I've finally figured a way to cut this workbench in half and turn it into a genuinely folding workbench. And I'll also be installing the UKJ path guide system so that you can cut perfect 90-degree angles. But in today's video, I'm going to be focusing on the important job of protecting the edges of your workbench. So why is it important to protect the corners? Well, as you'll see from the visual coming up on screen now, it's a pretty heavy lump to lug around. And regardless of whether you make your workbench out of MDF or out of an exterior ply like I've done, you'll find that when you lean the workbench up against the wall in storage, the edges will very quickly start getting damaged. Just quickly looking at the edges of this exterior ply, this is actually much better quality than the ply I used on my workbench, but you can see even with your finger you can start tearing away at the wood. And you've only got to put it down too heavily on the floor and very quickly this sort of thing will start happening. You don't want that. So let's have a look first at today's toolkit. So first of all you need to get hold of some hardwood and cut it down into strips. I used a circular saw to do this, but you could get your local timber merchants to do it for you. 2 F-clamps from Axminster, an invaluable little tool. Combination square to mark the 45-degree angles that need to be cut. My Irwin Jack floorboard saw to cut those angles. Some wood adhesive to glue the strips to the workbench. Exterior wood screws, I used 4x40s, could have probably done with 4x45s, and some sort of drill driver which will make your life a lot easier. Now for the protective strips on my workbench, I'm using this hardwood decking that I fished out of a skip from a building site I was working on recently. But you will need to find some hardwood. You don't get it at your typical DIY merchants, so you might need to go to a specialist supplier. And it might be better if you get that supplier to also cut the strips down to the right depth for your workbench. I've used my circular saw to do this. A link's coming up on the screen now to the recent video. Got to recommend these circular saws, and I was really impressed how the saw managed to handle this incredibly heavy resinous wood. So with enough strips cut to stretch right round the workbench, the next job was to drill a series of pilot holes roughly every 400mm apart. For this you want a drill bit which is just wider in diameter than the actual screw itself, probably about 4 to 5mm. And with that done, I just countersunk the holes to recess the screws into the protective strips. Because the end grain of the ply can be a bit brittle, I decided to also drill pilot holes for the screws, obviously smaller in diameter than the screw itself, and you would be really well advised to do this if your workbench is made out of MDF. Notice here how I'm using the F-clamps that you saw in the toolkit earlier to hold the strips roughly in position whilst I get them drilled and ready for screwing. With each strip pilot holed and ready for fixing into place, it was just then a question of applying some wood glue. I'm using here Evo Stick exterior wood glue. It's then just a really simple job of driving the screws home using my drill driver. This is the most satisfying part of the project. I need to cut a 45-degree angle on this worktop. I haven't got a chop saw, but what I do have is my Irwin floorboard saw. And what I love about this for jobs like this, it's got very fine teeth. So I'm marking the angle now with my combination square, the 45-degree angle. Bought these little clamps a few weeks ago and I'm just using them for everything at the moment. and then cutting it with the Irwin jack saw. What I love about this saw is you get such a precise cut. So that's it everyone, the work is complete and I've now had about 6 to 8 months of use of the workbench with this protective edge. I know today's video wasn't the most exciting on the channel, but if you're going to make a workbench like this, I thoroughly recommend you do this because as you can see here, the edge has already had quite a clattering, but it's only the edge that's been damaged and the work table itself is completely untouched. But my next 2 videos are in a way going to make this edge still important but less so, because in my next video I'm going to be cutting this workbench in 2 and installing a special bespoke hinge that enables me to use each half of the workbench when I don't want a big long workbench, or both workbenches together. And in my final video I'm installing the UKJ path guide system, and that will also take some of the weight off the workbench. So stay tuned guys, because I think it's going to get really interesting over the next couple of weeks. Really hope you found today's video useful. If you have, do please click on the like button below, and if you're new to my channel I would absolutely love to have you subscribe. I'm so grateful for all your support, it keeps me making these videos. So if you want to subscribe, please click on the link here and be sure to click the bell notification icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. See you soon.